Welcome to Not Entirely Unlike Tea with Christine Collins. Hey there, it's Christine Collins, and today we're looking into a subject that has impacted many of us and perhaps some others that we know or love, and that is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And the question that we are looking into is whether this is a psychological challenge within the brain, the mental side of things, or is it a physiological problem within the body? And the answer is yes. We often tend to think of PTSD as a psychological problem. It can include things like flashbacks, intense anxiety, avoidance of particular triggers. But the interesting thing about trauma is that it actually rewires both the mind and the body, and there can be this very complex web of interconnected things that are happening and changing, and they persist a long time after the trauma has occurred. So when we have PTSD, there are inflammatory molecules that remain elevated even after some of the other symptoms may have subsided. So even if we get to a space of a little bit of calm or working on healing the mind and our thinking and our behaviors, the body can still remain stuck in an alarm mode, a hypervigilant mode, and this can actually lead to things like higher rates of cardiovascular or autoimmune challenges. It's as if our immune system has its own traumatic memory, the body continuing to act as though it's preparing for war, even though the actual danger may have passed physically a long time ago. It's not just inflammation, it's the immune system's memory cells that have been reprogrammed by trauma. So when we look at neuroimaging related to trauma and PTSD, there's an increase in amygdala activation, our alarm system. There's smaller hippocampal volumes and decreased activity in the medial prefrontal cortex. So the amygdala becomes hyperactive, constantly scanning for threats, keeping us in a state of ongoing worry or hypervigilance. The hippocampus, which is connected to memory formation, actually shrinks a little bit, and the prefrontal cortex, which is there to kind of help us regulate our emotions and put all of our memories into a context, can go a little bit offline. And there can also be a little bit of a suppressed immune response in the brain. So the brain's immune cells may have blunted responses compared to healthy controls, almost as if that trauma is exhausting the brain's capacity to mount the immune response necessary. So it's not just a psychological or psychiatric situation. It is a whole body systemic inflammatory situation. There can be elevated levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines, an excessive activation of immune cells, and a disruption in neuroimmune interactions throughout the whole body. So your body's stress response system becomes dysregulated. The cortisol patterns can just go haywire. The gut microbiota may change, and it may even contribute to things like inflammatory molecules that lead to things like leaky gut. So that gut-brain axis dysfunction can help explain how this severe, significant kinds of stress can lead to a more blunted immune response over time. And chronic exposure to all of these stress hormones can reprogram the immune system to be less responsive, making it more challenging to properly heal or defend. So sometimes it's helpful to take a more holistic approach, not just looking at the situation as if it's a challenge to be solved within the mind only, but bringing the body on board and even considering tools like dietary changes, probiotics, brain stimulation techniques, other types of therapy that are more somatic or body-centered, and using a collection of tools to help support the entire brain and body in a more holistic way. Tools like EFT tapping and hypnosis can be very helpful, especially when used together collectively to kind of approach this situation from all sides. So the hypnosis, which helps us to move into altered states of consciousness where we can be more easily able to address and change underlying belief systems and structures that have been harmful to us. And interestingly, people with PTSD may be slightly more hypnotizable, which is a good indicator for treatment success. And hypnosis also helps to increase connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the insula, which helps us to enhance our emotional control. And in some cases, tools like hypnosis can be even more beneficial than just drugs or medication and things like that on their own. It allows for memories to be reprocessed and reintroduced in new and less threatening contexts, having a safe container to approach some of those traumatic memories. Additionally, emotional freedom technique, which is known as EFT or sometimes is called tapping, helps to create this beneficial brainwave change. It decreases arousal in the frontal regions and a reduction in some of the areas that are associated with things like cravings and compulsive behaviors. It also seems to calm the amygdala directly. So the amygdala, which is constantly triggering our stress hormones, particularly with PTSD, EFT can help to reduce those cortisol productions and calm down the entire nervous system. It involves the body's connective tissue network where collagen fibers act as semiconductors, transmitting electrical signals from those tapping points that you're stimulating throughout the entire body. There can also be improvements in things like blood pressure, heart rate, immune function, and possibly even gene expression. The wonderful thing about EFT is also a tool that you can use on your own in addition to being used in the context of therapy or with a practitioner. So people who learn how to practice EFT have a lifelong tool at their disposal that they can use at any time, anywhere. Now, when we combine hypnosis and EFT together, we get this beautiful power combo of being able to kind of rewire our thinking patterns, behavior patterns, long-held stories and beliefs that have helped to contribute to the trauma or have perhaps resulted because of the trauma, and marry that together with EFT, which calms the entire nervous system as we're talking through whatever the challenge is or thinking through whatever the challenge is. And both can be done on their own, where someone can use it as part of their collection of self-help tools. So re-evaluating how we look at things like trauma can lead us to more innovative, practical, and effective tools that can actually help us to move forward more easily. If you're interested in having access to such tools, I do offer both EFT tapping and hypnosis in my Mindset membership, which gives you 24/7 on-demand access to both EFT tapping videos, recorded hypnosis audios that you can use anytime, around the clock, whenever they are needed. And sometimes some of the most challenging moments are times like the middle of the night when no one else is available. It's wonderful when you have tools to support yourself in those moments. I hope you found this to be helpful and interesting. And until we connect the next time, I wish you the most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.